Now we're going to do the 7 stitches per inch with the much thinner Lin cable. And now you're not going to see the color change, but you can see that this is just one continuous piece. There's no knot in there. So we're going to start, because we're using this much smaller spacing, I'm going to start on the 3rd hole. So I'm going to backstitch 2, and then I'll backstitch 2 on this side. It just looks a little cleaner. So here I've gone through, I'm going to even out. So I'm just putting my hands out so that I have even thread length. It's going to make my life a lot easier. And you got to be a little delicate these first couple until you lock down a stitch. Otherwise you could pull too hard on one side or the other. You'll be off balance, and you'll notice it when you got to pull another 3 inches with one hand. It's sort of a pain. So we're going to go back, chase. Now because we're going this way, we're not going to cast that thread. So hook the finger, pull the thread. Now what I do here is I'll come in gently, and now I'll give it a little tug so I didn't offset those threads. Go back another one, chase it. Now here, since we're at the end, we're going to cast. I'm sorry, no we don't cast right there. So same deal, you pull, and now we should be pretty snug. I'm gonna start working my way back. Now at this point, we're gonna start casting. Bring this right side in, and if you just kind of look, that might be hard if you can zoom in a little bit, you can see that this thread where I punched it through, it's going to fall above the thread. So I already can tell that. I want to let it do that, that's fine. So all I'm going to do is guide it up over the top, cinch it down. Same thing on the back, see where it wants to fall, guide it, cinch it down. So now you can see, we'll do a close-up when we're done, but those look nice, they're right next to each other. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Okay. That one also wants to go above, that's fine, just let it do that. There we go. And the back fed right where I wanted. Now there's another thing that I'm doing I haven't mentioned yet, but I'll pin the thread against the pony when I want it to hold position. That way I'm not fighting it with my hand. So here, sometimes I'll pin it. It just sort of depends on what I need it to do. So there, I'm pinning. It's something I just do without thinking now. It holds that thread out of my way. The tension you're pulling when you're cinching down that knot is really important that that's consistent. Otherwise, it'll change the width of the thread. It'll pull it harder into that hole. So we want to make sure that that's very consistent as well. So I'm pinning. Can you see that? This thread, so it doesn't pull out on me. Okay, I'm going to turn towards you and show you what that looks like. Oops, see, there we go. Got myself because I changed my orientation. Like that. Yeah, that's why you want to keep your Band-Aid next to you. That's the importance of keeping it, because I was having no issues doing this. When I start changing the way I'm doing things, that's where I'm running into problems, whether I'm getting myself and now I'm getting blood everywhere, or really for me the bigger concern, because I'm not going to bleed to death. My concern is if I'm changing the way I'm doing things all the time, there's going to be a lot of inconsistency in the way that those threads lay, and it's not going to look very good. So small price to pay for you guys to learn another lesson at my expense. As you get faster, and this is a much more repeatable process for you, you're going to make marked improvements in the speed you can do this. When you're starting, it's going to take you quite a while to be able to get the muscle memory to find these holes every time. But as you get going, you get to a point where you don't even really need to look a whole lot. Your hand will just kind of drop it into that next hole because your spacing's super consistent. But until that point, just be patient with yourself. It takes time. I also am a big advocate of the sewing machine for another reason. So I was doing hours and hours of hand stitching a day, and it was starting to cause a lot of problems in my hand. It got to the point with my left thumb right about here that was so painful that I couldn't lift a pencil. So I had to stop doing this for that inflammation to go down, but I still needed to make my product. So I ended up buying a Techsew 2750 Pro industrial cylinder arm sewing machine that has a tabletop attachment. It's a really versatile piece of equipment. I absolutely love it, and I'll definitely do a review on it at some point. In fact, I will show in this video the difference in speed, which is pretty obvious, but I'll show you what that sewing machine lets me do on the third set of holes, because I'm not going to show you the stitch all. It's really just not my forte, so I'd rather show you the sewing machine instead. Okay, so this last one, remember, I'm punching through it and I'm just handing this needle across because we just want it out the back side. So this wants to go under, I just help it go where it wants to go, and we're done. So you can see here, I can actually tell you where I turned it. I turned it right there to show you, and that's why that stitch looks different, because I changed the angle that I was pulling at. So you got this nice decorative stitch with this thin thread. You got a nice finished start and stop where your threads are stacked. And then the back, there was a knot in the material right there, but the back has the same decorative stitch. So it looks good on either end. I'm gonna throw in a battery real fast, and I'm gonna show you how you can bury the end and make it look really nice. So I'll show you that in just a second. So we have our Thread Zapper 2 by the Beadsmith, this little tool. It's just like a little pen. So you probably see, I don't know if you can see it heat up. The tip getting red, can you see that? Not really? That's all right. This is cool because it lets us just bury this. So we have our thicker stuff, our wax thread. So you just let that heat up a little bit. And you just boop, bury it. Nice thing too is you got this little molten ball. It'll adhere to the other threads as well. So it just kind of locks everything down. Now this Lin Cable isn't as easy, but it'll still work. It burns more than melts, but it'll work. and just stamp it out with your finger, and now you have this nice finished back side and no knots showing on the front side. So I'm going to run this through the shelling machine real quick, give you a little taste of that. I will do a review of this machine at some point, so let's move over there. All right, here we've got our Techsew 2750 Pro. This is a pretty beefy machine. Honestly, it's way overpowered for whatever 12 ounces of leather, but it'll be good. So I've got it set to 7 stitches per inch like I have over here. I like that look. This machine has a light that we can adjust if we need it. I'll get that out of the way. We have a laser line if we want it. I typically don't use that. I just use the drop down gauge. So with a machine like this, you got to hold your threads until the stitches lock. So I think we're probably pretty close. Yep, right about that 5mm mark. So just gonna do 2 forward, reverse it, 2 back. Now my threads are locked and I can just run along this line. Now with the leather sewing machine, there's no need to go super fast. The slower the better, because once you put a hole somewhere, that's where that hole's gonna be. You're never getting rid of it. And we do our little back tack. And we're done. So there's the benefit there of that. I need to clip these threads off and I'll show you. Can you see that okay? Mm-hmm. Nice, uniform, consistent, decorative stitch. Same on the back. It's a really nice machine.